Thank you to all members of the public, councillors and officers who are joining us for today's meeting. Please be aware that the council is video recording this meeting and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. I would just like to highlight some key points of the meeting format. Please can I ask everyone to have their phones turned off or set to silent. If councillors have any concerns about hearing or seeing others in the meeting, please let the chair or a council officer know straight away. The fire exits are clearly marked, with 2 in this room being the closest. The assembly point is out here to the left, and there will be one out in front as well. Please remain seated unless you are invited to speak or need to take a company break. The toilet facilities are out in the corridor. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with the key points as follows. When the public participation agenda item is introduced, please raise your hand to show you wish to speak, and I invite you to speak. If you are comfortable standing, please do so to ensure you can be heard across the room. Public participation is limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person and must be relating to an item of business on the agenda. You do not need to state your name when you start speaking if you do not wish to, but we ask that you clearly state which agenda item you are speaking about. I would ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of an agenda item to limit distractions to other participants. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please clearly state point of order and I will then gesture for you to elaborate. If anyone present is found to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. Thank you for listening. On behalf of the council, I would like to thank everyone for attending this town council meeting. Thank you. May we have any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. We've got 2 apologies this evening. Councillor Taylor is unfortunately unwell, and Councillor Lutton has a personal commitment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. On to agenda item number 2, which is disclosure of interests. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosure of pecuniary interests and interests other than pecuniary interests as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and the Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. No, thank you. Right, agenda item number 3, public participation. Still with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with relevant legislation and Seaford Town Council policy. Thank you. May I ask the lady in pink to stand and speak?
Thank you. My name is Penny Lower, and some of you know me as an ex-councillor. I want to talk about matters that are arising from the minutes of the last meeting, particularly the allocation of places on committees and on outside bodies. I wonder if you could update me on the fact that there were 7 vacancies on outside bodies. When I was a councillor, I was on several outside bodies, as were most of my colleagues. I think we need to realise that these outside bodies are indeed important to our community, and it's very disappointing to me that councillors are not stepping up to take places on those. If they're not important, then they shouldn't be listed. So I would encourage people to think again perhaps about joining those outside bodies and representing the council on them. And the other thing that I was a bit surprised about was the number of councillors who are not, in my opinion, fully participating in the committee structure. There are several councillors who are only on one committee. Now I fully recognise that Olivia, our esteemed mayor, It's got lots of other duties, so obviously that is very understandable. But there are quite a few councillors who are only on one or two committees, and some of them also are the ones that decided not to stand on outside bodies. It's my expectation as a voter, as a resident, that those people that are representing me are fully committed to the town council, to the various committees and the other duties. And I just hope that the new councillors especially have expectations that they will take a full and active part in all of the activities of the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone's heard that okay in terms of the residents hope that all outside body vacancies can be filled and there's adequate representation on committees. I think that's all heard loud and clear by everybody here. In terms of outside bodies, it's clear, I want to be clear that those vacancies remain open, so if any councillor wishes to become an outside body rep, I have delegated authority to fill those vacancies with the consent of the council, so, which is an official way of saying you can ask me if you want to do it, okay, and I'll check with the council if it's possible. I think in terms of committees again, we'd say if any councils are thinking about any further committee membership, talk to me and we can see how that would work best. I hear what the resident says fully, but I also would recognise that all of our councillors are unpaid and do all this as volunteers in your own time. And I think that I've actually been really impressed by the committed staff this group of councillors have made. They've fully attended inductions, and all of the committee meetings we've had so far have been fully attended by all councillors. In the past, we've had more councillors on committees on paper, but actually in attendance terms, some councillors not turning up to the meetings, which is frankly worse than having the post held as vacant. We'd rather have a committee group open. So I completely hear the residents' point about hoping that our group of councillors can commit to as many things as they can, and please do feel free to come forward to take up committee places or an outside body representative's vacancy. But I think we also do recognise the time you're all giving and the service you're giving, if you like already, and we'll work together to maximise the effectiveness of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can something be done to improve the sound in this building? The acoustics are terrible. My hearing aids are on full power and I can't hear what's going on.
Yeah, we're very aware this venue is far from ideal. We haven't really come here because we like it here. We've come because of the amount of people we have to fit in the availability of spaces like this in Seaford. Most of the other large spaces in the town are in religious settings, and this is a secular setting. We've got mics for the speakers this evening so people can hear discussion, and also we'll make sure that if there's anything from the floor that isn't audible, we will repeat it back to people, and we'll continue to work with the venue to see how we can improve things. We're only coming here when there's nowhere else. And we will continue to try to find alternatives, because we recognise there are some challenges in this venue.
Thanks. John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to extend my thanks to the Council for allowing me to carry on representing the Town Council for the community bus service. This bus service is run by volunteers. There are no paid employees, so when you see those yellow and green buses flying around this town, it's what people put work in. I'm so glad to be associated with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we appreciate the time and effort you're putting into the outside body for putting the buses and as you say, recognise the great commitment their volunteers give to our community and the benefit they bring to so many residents. Thank you.
Any other further public participation? Okay, thank you very much. Then we are on to item number 4, which is minutes. So the first one is 4.1, which is full council minutes for the 18th of May 2023. May I have a proposer, please? Councillor Walraven, and the seconder, Councillor Bristow. Thank you. And minutes 4.2 for planning and highways on the 1st of June 2023. Please can I have a proposer? Councillor. Oh, sorry, Mayor. All in favour, Council? For? Against? Okay, thank you, Linda. 4.2, planning and highways. Can we have a proposer? And seconder, Councillor Warman, and then all in favour? Thank you. Any against? No, thank you very much. Right, then we are on to number 5, which is the civic update report. To consider report 24/23 presenting the mayor's update and detailed engagements attended. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. We are asked to note the contents of the report, so can I have a vote, please? Councillor Sturton and seconder, Councillor Buchanan, then all in favour. Thank you, that's carried, thank you very much. Over to young men.
I've been building into the people in the army life by attending. Over the past few weeks, I've been building into the beauty people in the army life by attending these events. With the help of my head teacher, we plan to go into local primary schools to provide classes about safety, which I mostly before summer holidays again. The first talk being at Annesley at the second week of July. As a result, I hope to spread awareness, as I think it's most important for young children to see. I continue to go to youth forum, as they have been very supportive and helpful towards fundraising ideas. I've been having youth forum and planning an assembly as the head. I look forward to helping organise as much as I can.
Thank you very much. We're then on to agenda item number 6, which is Town Council Working Group reports. There's no current reports at this moment. Then on to number 7, outdoor body representation reports. The standard agenda item to enable Town Council's appointed as representatives of outside bodies of the Town Council to give brief verbal updates on relevant business or activities of the outside body, but noticing only. Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to report that the Bishop's Valley Night Charities met earlier this month. And after the annual inspection, we are hoping to replace the rocket installation with a much bigger thickness to help the heating of the building. Also, this summer we're hoping for the external repair and decoration of the outside of the building to be done. And the finances are looking good. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick briefing on the Suffolk Towns Garden, aka Seaford right. Just the Seaford aspect. One of the biggest concerns there is with the chalk that came about it's in the right place. And there's the chair there was quite concerned about lack of good progress of that. I know it's been mentioned elsewhere, but I'm sure that group is obviously partly consults. One of the consultants anyway, or the group, I hope it is, I'm sure it should be anyway. And that's one of their main concerns basically at the moment, progress or lack of it. And the other issue, so much in this area, was how they promote rail or otherwise, basically obviously 80% there's a truck road, and between us the unique path between Holgate and felt like as far as there is how it links to the rest of the line as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any
to attend the outside body golf meeting because it was on the same evening as the planning event at the Town Council. However, Charlene, Seaford Secretary, did send me the minutes and I can forward them on for inclusion with the information. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Then we are on to agenda item number 8, which is the District and County Councillor update report. So, Councillor Bristow.
Hi, so I'm going to give a quick report in my capacity as Lewis District Councillor for Seaford West, just on what's happened at Lewis since we last met. So you may be aware that following the local elections, number 41 councillors, district councillors returned, 17 of whom were from the Green Party, 15 from the Liberal Democrats and 9 were Labour councillors. We had a full council meeting on the 22nd of May. So the leader of Lewis District Council, Zoe Nicholson, leader of the Greens, and there's an alliance between the Green Party and the Labour Party, and so they filled cabinet positions with the Liberal Democrats in constructive opposition, and that's how it's going forward at Lewis. Maybe we can put in the minutes the list of Seaford District Councillors. I'm not going to read it out here. That might be some of whom are also in this room. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. County Councillor report.
Thank you, Chairman. Just very briefly, we completed that yesterday and we've approved extra funding for portals. I know that's a big issue. Yeah. The contract is came into effect in May, so we've got a new contract, which I'm sure you are aware of, Betty Powerful. The contract, the plan is, I think, in July, we'll meet with members and so if there are any questions you want to raise, we will put the contract to fill it in to all of the county councillors in town, and they can raise that with the contract. And yesterday, Cabinet met and approved the extra funding, which is hoped to help fix the portal issue.
Thank you very much. Potholes definitely needs to be fixed. Thank you. Right, number 9 is Town Clerk's update report, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, again. As I've said in my report, it's the first Town Clerk report since the elections in May and reflects on a lot of change and setting out the way ahead. And also, as it says here, we're meeting on the 8th of July to work on our strategic plan together. And just to say, I'm very grateful most of you have let Izzy know if you can come on Saturday, 8th of July. We have 12 acceptances so far. If anybody hasn't yet let us know if you can attend or not, please can you do that? You've got to make logistical arrangements. We need to know how many people are coming. And just while on that topic, if you like, our main means of communication with you all is through your council email addresses. So if any of you are having any issues with your council email addresses, do let me yourself or Izzy know so that can be fixed straight away, because that is our means of communication with you. So it's really important that you're able to access those emails, because that's how we're communicating with you. For example, say, to confirm your attendance on the 8th of July and what your dietary requirements are as well. And it's just one example of that. So do make sure that's working. If there's any issue there, let us know so we make sure it is then working, so we keep that strong communication going between us. As we all know, 12 new councils over 20, it's great, as I say, to have that really strong commitment to public service in our town. With a really busy staff, induction sessions, comprehensive written information, revolving paperwork, and the annual council meeting, election of their appointments of committees and outside bodies. So, as I said earlier, I want to thank you all for your strong engagement commitment so far, with all of these things being fully attended. And also, as you also know, item 2.4 is in communication with you about the further training programme being organised and further training opportunities as they arise. And again, it's great to see you guys signing up to some of those training opportunities that we're offering you to help you to be the best you can be within your role. As well as a lot of council change, there's also been a lot of staffing change. We have Louise, our new head of asset projects and services, started on the 1st of June. Mel, new HR governance manager, started just before that. We have a new events facilities officer, Helen, who started yesterday. In addition to those 3 new members of staff, we also have 2 staff in different roles now. Georgia in her new role of compliance officer, this really vital post that will strengthen council processes going forward. And Sharon, who was events and facilities officer, going into a more senior position of assets and projects manager from the beginning of June. And it's great again as a small organisation to still be able to practice such staff development. But as I'm sure you all understand, it's been therefore a massively busy time within the central office with the election of all the new councillors, the busiest civic time in the 4-year cycle, alongside with all of the staffing change and the many new members of staff coming into the organisation. It's a really exciting time, but it's been a really busy time as well with all of that going on. Moving on to the rest of the report, I've set out an approach for forward planning for you. In section 4, again, to help new councillors, there are standard agenda items for a meeting, so you know what to expect. And then, as I say, I've covered the items we're discussing this evening. And then 4.3, I've trailed ahead to agenda items we're expecting to come to meetings either in July or September. And I'm sure, as all councillors can see, that's a very, very busy programme. So the July and September meetings are going to have quite a lot of access to everything to consider. That's great, it shows us what's happening. We're a very busy council, but just to be aware of that, we've got quite a lot of business to do over these 3 meetings coming up tonight, July and September. Also reflecting on the fact we have our cycle committees, subcommittees going now. Many of the committees have now met and the other ones are meeting in the next couple of weeks. So again, great to have that going forward. And as I said, strategic planning day in July in the context of, as I say, we've had a town survey with more than 600 responses, and we've also had some very successful workshops with people in local community organisations on their priorities, and that information will be with councillors as they're considering the priorities for the future. A few final points, just to be clear that you guys all voted for Councillor Mayor Rhodes to be our representatives for the Central Park Board. And also, as we've seen this evening, John Edson has become the outside body rep for Cookney Community Buses. Thank you for listening so patiently. Have some questions or comments for the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Hyman, you have your hand up first, and then Councillor Lucas.
Thank you very much, Chair. Madam Mayor, and just a couple of points over sort of the 4.7. So, when it talks about the town council's delighted, this is the first council meeting we've had, so I don't know if that's what this is delighted. Someone was delighted, that's one query. Yeah. The other query was, you're not, at this, on the day of the 8th of July, I'm sure you're using other information for the way forward, like the aspirations of the local plan, the Labour plan, for example, which is ready to be released. I'm sure you're using some of those ideas in there as well, but that's already been formulated, and I'm sure some of those ideas and issues are still relevant into today, and I'm sure some of them will work by the public and some of the responses. That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I've had lots of positive feedback from different councils and officers about getting such a great response. So that's put away the town council, but that's what it means. And in terms of, yes, you're quite right. And we're being really careful to make sure councils have sufficient briefing information to draw upon some of the key documents to refer to in setting the plan. Part of the planning process will also involve councillors perhaps reflecting on some of the older documents to see what it is they still wish to take forward over the 4-year cycle ahead. Obviously, there'll also be the opportunity for councillors to raise new things and have new ideas and framework going into the plan as well. And we're going to structure the day on Saturday to make sure we capture as much of those things as possible, with also clear steps afterwards to make sure they're drawn upon before our final document is agreed.
Thank Thank you, Councillor Dillon.
Oh yes, thanks for the update, Mark. It's just a query on 4.5 and 6. You mentioned the responses, but I don't believe we've actually seen those responses. Is there a document that tells us what they are, please?
Yeah, that's the community relations feedback's going to be circulated to you all. The responses from the community were covered at the town forum. The presentation to town forum is the survey results. But again, we'll make sure those slides are also circulated to all councillors before Saturday.
What medium was used for your survey? There are people in town who always say they're not consulted, so it would be nice to know.
Yeah.
My second point is, again, it would be nice to have an opportunity to meet the new members of staff. I don't know if your intention is to bring them down on the 8th of July, or that would be nice.
Okay, the second one first, not the 8th of July, because it would be better than that is a Saturday. But I don't want to steal your thunder, Madam Mayor, but I know that Madam Mayor is making plans for a way to bring us all together informally. I think that's a great idea. So, Councillor Nichols, she's not the case with it, so really good stuff. And then in terms of, the methodology, I think that we were deliberately making sure that the survey was reasonably short and as accessible as possible, and I think that our approach there was indicated by the number of responses that we had. Included a really strong response, so we managed to come up with something that people felt they could spend 10 minutes filling in and have used them so, rather than something that put people off. It was a large online study, but we did also have means of people being able to fill it in not online. We obviously advertised it well, our notice boards and stuff like that, and there were printed copies in tourist information, and other places in town where people could come along and fill it in. So we tried to do all we could, while being completely honest about it. We're a small organisation, so with the resources we had, we did all we could. Obviously, with more spending, we could have done even more than that. But I think we did a really best job we could, and getting so many responses show we were achieving significant reach. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on this agenda item? Okay, thank you. Right, we are asked to know the contents of the report. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Hora and a seconder. Councillor Wearmouth, all in favour? Thank you very much. Right, agenda item number 10. Which is to consider a proposal for the Crouch Bowling Club to install footpath lights.
Thank you, Chair. And as the motion says, with the bowling club are funding this venture, and we're also, as we said within the report, conscious that when the Crouch green space was transferred 20-25 years ago to Seaford Town Council, there's a bylaw in place where any development requires the consent of Lewis District Council. So any decision we make tonight will still be subject to that Lewis District Council bylaw consent. So that's why the motion is framed in the way that it is. I'm really grateful to the members of the Crouch Bowling Club for their approach to the council's matter, and for taking the time and trouble to put together the proposal that you see on page 16 of the report. This covers where they're going to go, how big they're going to be, and sort of how it's all going to work within the context of the setting, because of course the Crouch is a very important and loved green space that many people would be concerned about. Reflecting that as well as the input from the Crouch Bowling Club, the Town Council also undertook a public consultation on this proposal to hear if there were any serious resident concerns for this proposal, and as you see within the report, basically there weren't. There was some advice often about the best approaches maybe the council could take to this issue, and also just checking that it really was true that the Crouch Run Club were paying for this proposal themselves. But there was nothing, but no one said, please don't do this in terms of the responses we got to the consultation. Thank you, Chair. Happy to take any questions on the process.
Thank you. Councillor Lord.
It's just a very small thing. To have to bring credentials, I would have thought that we'd solar power lights rather than put around cable halfway around the ground boardwalk. Because in essence, what we're doing is increasing CO2 emissions of electric lights. There are some very, very good, practical, and simply installed lights which are solar powered. Or at the very least, have a solar panel which will offset the emissions of these four lights when the actual grows. Also, into consideration.
Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, I just wondered if there's any further information about risk assessment for lands. So, was it happening on land, so if someone trips over and it's not able for it? If there's any further information on the quotes we received, I think the council wants there. So, the solar panels who pays, who's going to pay for the upkeep of that, so it's solar panels on the sheet, solar actually cheaper. But if it's electric, then that's ongoing bills and upkeep and repairs, and who's responsible for that? I wasn't sure. I did put that was clear up in the.
Councillor Borman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Obviously, these lights are out in the flower borders, so there's not going to be a kind of a tripping hazard unless you wander into the flower borders. I have been down there at night time, and it is dark getting down that pathway when we've left the bulbs to see things. Sometimes it is quite dark, so I understand why they want them. But I'm asking for the dusk to dawn. Why can't they turn off by 11 o'clock? I'm sure no one's leaving there after 11 o'clock. They want us to carry on running till dawn. And throughout the night, you have boxes setting the lights off and everything again. And depending on how strong those lights are, it could become an illumination problem for many residents living nearby. So just how can they actually go off earlier on and go all the way through to dawn?
Councillor.
Thank you. I'm just a little bit concerned about the lighting around the agenda. I was wondering basically the wider issue of lighting in the Crouch. Because obviously the Crouch bowl you picked out Mayfield lady lights. I mean, you're also getting the match with the football as well. I know you can put floodlights, and I know you need floodlights and double illumination as well, is it? So you could argue on one level the bowl you could pick it up. Really expand. But then I'm thinking, is that the right way in? You need to walk out the side of the bowling rink to go to the clubhouse, which is effectively what they're doing. So was there better alternative route going in? So I just wondered if the whole picture of lighting for the whole of the Crouch maybe needs to look at the same time, because once you start before, you may want to think about how a lighting network in the. I know it'd be very controversial, but current climate, what's going on there. There's a wider picture though, but starting before, could you really want more? Well, I can see that possibly happening. I'm not sure if the football coach will get involved with this as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Bristow.
Yeah, I think some great points have been made so far about possibly being solar powered, and I'd just like to say that I think it's a very sensible idea to have some lights there for people using the bowling club more. I do think there's a bit of a fundamental issue here, which we came across last year, and I think as a council there's something we ought to consider for the future, which is third parties installing things on land of which they have no tenure, whether they don't lease the land or they don't own the land, so they're effectively installing it on town council land. Should our normal process be to allow that, or should our normal process be to come together with that third party and find a way that the council actually does it? Because going forward, who takes on the maintenance, the public liability, the risk and all that kind of thing. It might sound very dull and boring, but I think it's something quite important that we need to consider. So I'd really like to put forward, especially in light of the great suggestions that have been made, and I think, I know from someone who, and as you know, I live very near the Crouch, I'm there nearly every day, in the winter, often in the dark. The whole sort of area there would benefit from some sort of sympathetic and environmentally conscious lighting, and perhaps that's something we might look into. But in the short term, I can understand that the Crouch Bowling Club will likely want this before the winter. So perhaps we ought to defer it for a meeting and consider how we best go forward as a council with a project like this, and then come back to it and enable it in the best way possible.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of very important points made there, councillors. I guess listening to the whole discussion, it sounds to me like whether council might wish to consider whether any of them wish to propose any amendments to this proposal to reflect the points that have been raised, and whether the council would wish to consider that amended proposal rather than the simple proposal you have in front of you. I think that in terms of some of the points we've had in discussion, such as management of risk and things like that, I think as well, I think that it would be possible to discuss with the body about certain options and see whether that might be possible. And I think in terms of the use of council land, we own a lot of land in this town as a council, and we often have approaches to us to do things on our land, on the land of the town, because we're custodians in our land. That's the point where we're custodians, we're holding the land on behalf of the town, on our land, if you like. But a good example of that is the developing Cliff Gardens project on the pump field in one of the Martello fields, where Seaford Community Partnership presented to this council and got the council's support for that project, even though it's taking place on the land owned by Seaford Town Council. The Town Council has been pleased to support that project with the environmental benefits that it will bring, while recognising it is on our land, and therefore appropriate arrangements have to be in place. So I guess I wonder, Chair, whether there's any council wish to either say or suggest any amendments to this proposal to be considered, and then councillors may then wish to see what they want to take going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So do I have any recommendations for motions? Councillor Mead.
Thank you, Chair. Could I suggest that I would propose that we put a motion to support this in principle, but we would like to discuss with the bowling club how to go forward with that as far as risk assessment and ongoing responsibility is concerned, so that we feel safe that it's going to be looked after in the future, and also any health and safety and risk issues are dealt with them, as opposed to giving them carte blanche to do it their way. And also this gives time, if we say we support it in principle, for Lewis District to come back and give their response as well. Thank you.
Councillor Hyman.
Thank you. I don't know, can you approach the football club to see if they're interested in getting involved in this? Because it does effectively impact on their land as well, their area. It's the same area, isn't it? Well, unless I'm being completely wrong path or something, or it's a different lane, it's effectively, it's not really, it's not inside the body, is it?
If you look on the diagram, it shows you where the proposed rights are going to go. It's within it's alongside the footprint of the bowls club, and not really within the football club's footprint.
It's not the gate, is it? It's a double gate.
It's along, but it's on the diagram I'm looking at. It's alongside one side of the bowling green, but away from it sufficiently. It's not within the footprint, it's not within the lease area, but it's not going into any other part of the crouch being used manually.
So can I also make this just additionally, is exactly what is the natural way to where we go? Because in daylight hours, you really different way anyway. Quite invariably, you may go for another part of the gardens to get to the clubhouse. So I just wonder how you consider the routes where they basically use daylight and otherwise. So what I mean?
Yes, I hear what you're saying. I think that the bowling club have put this proposal together themselves, so I would hope they would understand where they could realise these.
Okay. Doesn't mean we can double check that.
I propose that I second Councillor suggestion that we accept in principle that lights may or are required, but I think we need a more detailed feasibility study from the Borough to say how we're going to do it, and more importantly that we're using a approved contractor from the Borough District Council, particularly connects up into the fuse box which is owned by Seaford Town Council. So yes, I go for it, but we found more details as to how we're going to do it, and also need mitigating slip trips and thoughts which have been suggested before. So I suggest we go for principle yes, and with a suggestion that more detailed information proposal.
Councillor Sturton. Can I just add to that the bowling club are proposing to get quotes from 2 electrical contractors who would request that they get one in relation to solar panels and solar panels lights rather than just electrical lighting. From a approved contractor.
Just a quick point there. It could be that between, if we carry this in principle and when, that it acts as a pilot project for solar for the larger part of the crouch. It could be seen as something like that. So, you know, the learnings from that could feed into something more wide and more wide in the town as well.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Okay, Chair, we're Bev and I just putting together what we think the motion is, and then we're going to read it out. Okay, so the council votes to support that lights are required for the bowl club. Agreed, subject to more detailed feasibility studies covering risk assessment, ongoing maintenance, and solar options.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Would you like to propose that? Councillor Mead? Councillor, you're happy that's your proposal, yeah? Councillor George, you're happy you're seconding that? Okay, Chair. Sorry. You can go
Okay. Right, can we have all in favour? Any against?
One against,
Any abstentions? Thank you. Right, item number 11, which is to receive the final internal audit report for Mulberry and Co Limited for 2022-2023.
Thank you, Chair. In front of you in this report is the internal audit report, 2 internal audit reports, one which is down as part of the AGAR, which you see a lot of this agenda. The annual governance audit, annual governance audit report, it's not there. And accountability return, so sorry. Yes, my last night I tasted it. So the AGAR the first part is like one part of the AGAR, the second one is the internal auditing report that you just 2 a year. The one that you've got is the summary of the final audit report, which does also refer back to the one that you did earlier in the year. There's no recommendations to report, so it is just a noting and approval, but I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Do you have any questions? Councillor Weirmouth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I noticed a couple of things in a comment which I'd just like to clarify. If I see that the interim report was in October 2022 and finally the letter on 30th of May, and the costs seem remarkably small for a professional report, and the £176 and £170, which doesn't seem an awful lot of professional time, and I would ask you that sort of really a break for the time involved. And secondly, in the very complimentary letter, first of all, that I think reflects the financial standards of the council and the RFO, but it says there was no instance of high staff turnover, and I just wondered how they define that, because we have had several senior members of staff replaced recently, and I just wondered how they define the points in the letter.
Thank you, Chair. On the second point, I'll come to first. Basically, this is reflecting on the last year, not the coming year, and I think they're really talking about the finance team, the town clerk. None of that has changed, hasn't changed for a number of years, so that probably won't be in the next report. And yes, they are good value. They charge by the hourly rate, and I think because they've done it so much, they know what they're looking at, and it's 2 or 3 hours every time that they actually come and do the, twice a year when they come and do the audit. And it's very reasonable. We do believe they do a thorough job. They're a well-known audit company that audit a lot of town councils. So we don't complain that it's inexpensive, because some other auditors charge a lot more. They just charge for what they do. They don't charge a blanket rate.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Antonini.
Thank you very much. Can we just get some clarification regarding page 22, which is the duty guarantee? I know we did at the vote a few months ago. We have a lot. Can you just confirm that again? What's
Basically, the guarantee insurance is to insure against fraud and money that's handled around the town. The way our accounts are made up, the way our bank accounts are made up, there's no way that anybody can get anything out from one to another. Like the savings account, it's set up so that it can only go to the current account. So there's no way that higher amount. So what our internal auditor was recommending was that it was for the whole amount of all the money that we've got. But there's no way there could be any fraud at that amount. It's just physically not possible. So it was brought to council. We could increase it. I think it was about £450. It wasn't a lot of money to increase it, but we felt it was an added cost that wasn't needed, and council agreed. It can be revisited if councillors want to increase it. I think it's $1 million, isn't it? $1 million. I think it's $1 million at the moment. So it's quite a considerable amount. But we don't have, no officer has any authority, any ability to be able to get anything out of them. Or a councillor, you know.
Thank you. Councillor Sturgeon.
If I could ask a quick follow-up on Councillor Nietzsche's question. Would the fidelity guarantee cover only fraud, or would it cover things like insolvency on the part of the bank?
No, it doesn't cover that.
That covers separately.
I think the only cover for that is the standard £85,000 cover that is given statutorily. We're not sure of anything like that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Thank you. Everyone's happy to take all three together. So to receive and note the annual internal auditor report, appendix 1, note the final report of the internal auditor Appendix 2, to approve the appointment of Mulberry & Co Limited as the term auditor for 2023 to 2024. May I have a proposal, please? Councillor Lord and a seconder, Councillor Morgan, and then all in favour. That's carried, thank you. Right, agenda item number 12, to enable full council to discuss and approve the annual governance statement 2022-2023.
Thank you, Chair. This is the second part of section 1 of the AR that we're asking you to look at tonight. It's basically to approve that you look at the appendix and all the sections of the annual governance statement. The council has actually complied with all of these assertions. They're all explained there in the report, and we're asking for permission to authorise the chair and the town clerk to sign the annual governance statement. Again, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Any questions? Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question, it's just to say thank you to our RFO. I believe this is your last evening because when you started with us many years ago, we were in that aspect, and we were advised by the internal audit to increase our reserves. And 3 years on, we've actually got a lot more reserve. I think it's £700,000 in reserve. So that's just great. So thank you very much. You've done a very good job. Thank you.
I've never worked on the AR before. It's my first time.
Thank you. Any further questions? Right, we are suggesting we take the two together. So to agree that to the best of its knowledge and belief, it is compiled with all assertions in the annual governance statement for the year ending 31st of March 2023. Then number 2 is to approve the annual governance statement for the year ending 31st of March 2023, Appendix 1, and authorise the chair and town clerk to sign Section 1 of the annual governance and accountability return on behalf of the town council. Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Hurura and a seconder, Councillor Biermouth, and then all in favour. Thank you. Any against? No, thank you very much.
We're going to sign this one.
Right, we're now asked on agenda item number 13 to present the final accounts of annual governance and accountability return from section 2 for the year ending 31st of March 2023 for approval and adoption.
Thank you, Chair. Everyone reviews the annual statement of accounts for the town council, which I'm sure a lot of new councillors will be very surprised at the format, but this is the statutory format that we have to use. And we're asking you tonight to all, I've already authorised them and said that they represent true and fair value of our accounts as of the 31st of March. And we're asking you tonight to authorise the Mayor and the Chair, as Chair of the Council, to sign them as well. And just to say that the situation that the accounts are at the moment, I've said it before, I think you've all heard me say it, that yes, we've now got 788,000 in general reserve, we've got 954,000 in earmarked reserves, some of them are earmarked for specific purposes, and can't just spend on everything. We have got that big chunk of silver that went in there this year that's increased them dramatically. But we're in a very robust and very healthy position, and I feel very pleased to leave the council with those reserves. So I don't really have anything else to say about it, other than I'm happy again to take questions. We've got all the documents here that actually go, the whole AGAR goes to the auditor tomorrow on Monday, with all the documents that are in this report as well. So if you have any questions on any of them, I'll try to answer.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. We are asked to, I'm going to take all three together again, if that's okay. So we are asked to consider and approve section 2 of the annual governance and accountability return, accounting statements 2022 to 2023 by resolution. 2, to authorise the Mayor as Chair of the Town Council to sign section 2 of the annual governance and accountability return 2022 to 2023 on behalf of the Town Council. 3, to know earmark reserve movements and capital expenditure in the year. Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Walraven and a seconder, Councillor Lindsay Sturton, and then all in favour? Any against? Thank you very much. Can I take this opportunity actually to echo what Councillor Lindsay said? Thank you very much to Karen and Lucy. Michigan and our phone. Right, on to agenda item number 14, which is to appoint signatories to the cooperative bank account of Seaford Town Council and agree to the necessary resolution. Any questions? No questions? Right. Full council is recommended to appoint up to an additional 5 councillors as signatories on the cooperative bank account of the Town Council, to approve keeping the same bank signatories for their terms on the Town Council, and then to approve finance manager being an additional signatory on the Town Council's cooperative bank account for the reasons set out below. Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Ruth Sturton, and seconder was Councillor Walraven, and then all in favour? Thank you very much.
Chair, can I just make a comment? Lucy will be in touch with members of the Balance and General Purposes Committee over the next week to ask if you'd like to be signatories until we get the required amount of people. So, just to let you know the process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, we're then on to agenda item number 15, which is to update councils on how best internal communications are carried out and trial future developments.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Chair. Again, this report has been really brought to you now, but because I say we're very conscious of how many new councils we have, and we want to give you another emphasis no longer in how communication is supposed to work going forward. At the same time, with so many new councillors, it's been a great opportunity to look at actually the most effective ways of doing communication and the training of that within this report. So we're looking at a model where at 1.2 councillors are informed and engaged and therefore helps to make good decisions, and officers support that to achieve successful outcomes, i.e. successfully deliver work programmes based upon decisions of councillors. Also underpinning the cultural things that Trevor Lego covered with you in your training around what the code of conduct and civility and respect page have to say about a culture of mutual respect. It's brilliant we have that here and we all work together to enable that to continue to be strengthened and to grow. But essentially what we feel councils need, 1.4, is absolute clarity. How do you ask questions? How do you raise concerns? And how to put forward evidence? So as the report goes on to say, in July we're bringing to you a proposed system for doing that. It's going to be, the good news is it will have an acronym because we sit with the Town Council, we like an acronym. Okay, so we have SPOT, which some of you will be familiar means a single point of contact system, which enables all council communications to go to the correct place, but also by introducing the system, will improve things by having an easy way of recording communications for review, learning, and to maximise appropriate accountability. And the second measure being brought forward is what I'm calling the open time. I think that we've done our best. We have some meetings on Tuesdays because there aren't enough Thursdays for all the committees to meet at the time they need to meet. But most of our meetings are on Thursdays. That's deliberate. So again, as people who are giving your own time to this, you know an evening that's right to the council, and you know there are other days of the week when you don't have to worry about the council because you have other things going on in your lives as well. So what I'm proposing is to put an extra is that I'm very happy to be available one Thursday a month for anything people wish to raise. Where you think it's a good thing to be face-to-face rather than email and that sort of stuff, then I'll make one Thursday a month available to you to just pop in and see me and talk about whatever you want. So we're just putting that together, so I'm training it now, but we're just putting this together so that the fully worked up model will come to the July full council for consideration, comments and adoption. But again, as I said earlier, we want to let you know that this is coming so you can see that it is. In the meantime, the default, I am your default. Okay, so if you're not sure, send to me. That's quite deliberate because there are 20 of you, and we also have a number of officers all doing different things. So it helps things to be structured and organised if there's a sort of route for that, and I'm happy to be that route while the new SMOC system has been finalised. We'll cover in the report in July any necessary exceptions to that, such as, for example, if you have concerns about me, you obviously don't raise them you raise them with the mayor, who's responsible for those things. And also reflecting the fact that with our committee system, we obviously have a well-established system where our RFO has a working relationship with our chair of our finance committee, our planning officer has a working relationship with our chair of our planning committee, etc. So we're not going to trip over anything like that. We'll make everything clear in the report. But outside of that, give one method, one place to take things from one place where responsible coming from to help our communication with that. Thank you for listening. Have questions now, being mindful we're coming back in July. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
That sounds really, really helpful. The introduction was good. We just wanted to ask if you could add a synopsis of who's who and a brief overview of what those members of staff do to give us a clue who we might contact. I've had some communication from residents and it's in relation to 2.1, single point of contact. We don't believe that should happen. We believe we should be free to be able to contact officers directly because communication flow needs to happen. And it could be that as the town clerk, you've got lots to do. You know, we're paying a high salary for somebody to filter emails. We don't want that to happen. So we want to be able to contact senior officers who can then, if it's not appropriate for them, they can redirect it to the most appropriate person. But we want to maintain that free flow. We do not want to say single point of contact. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not going to preempt the debate that we'll have in July on this matter, but to say that when the spot comes in, it won't be me. So I'm not proposing that I take on completely about appropriate use of my time. However, given my proper officer responsibilities, it does make sense for me to be aware of key communication going on between councillors and officers because of the responsibilities I have in the proper officer position. And I think, as I say, we'll cover more in July, but to be clear, the rationale behind the stop is simply that if you look at 1.2, we have to consider also how our officers are best supported to achieve successful outcomes. And that really means they need to be able to, as far as they're able to, focus upon delivering the motions that the council has passed, rather than have sort of queries coming in from here, there, potentially here, there, and everywhere in an unmanaged and unplanned way. So it's really based upon the experience of being a larger council, working with 20 councillors and an officer team, and just thinking of a sensible way that we all work together. As with everything, there's no perfect solution, and again, whatever come up with, we will see how it goes and learn from it as we go. But we want to make sure officers are supported to achieve successful outcomes as well, which means that they need to also be able to get on with delivering the work that the council has asked them to do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? Right, we are asked to note the report. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Brigstone and a seconder, Councillor Meek, and then all in favour. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Right, agenda item number 16 to provide full council with an update on 2023 to 2024 work schedule within the town council's policies.
Okay, I think it's fairly self-explanatory, but if anyone has any questions, please do ask me and I'll do my best to answer.
Any questions? No, thank you. Can we please have a proposer? Councillor Woolman and a seconder, Councillor Lord, all in favour? Thank you. That's everyone.
Thank you, Chair.
Agenda item number 17, which is to present the annual review of the Town Council Standing Orders Policy Document.
Thank you, Chair. So, as the report says, I mean, again, I hope it's really helpful actually to have brought this report again to you early within the civic year, especially again for new councils, to give you the opportunity to review the standing orders, given what a core document is in terms of your role as a councillor and also how the council works and does its business, because that's what standing orders does. It describes how the council does its business. As the report also refers to, a lot of the content of the standing orders is statutory, and where it is statutory, that's shown as bold within the document you've been asked to review. The other times that the standing orders tend to get reviewed is when therefore there are legislative changes, or when our national body, now National Association of Local Councils, whose model standing orders these are based on, make recommendations for change. In the last 12 months, there have been no recommendations for change from now. There's been no legislative changes. So that's why we haven't proposed any changes to the standing orders, which you're reviewing this evening. I'll hand up to you, Chair, any questions or comments.
Any questions? Councillor Meek.
Thank you, Chair. It's not really a question, it's just a kind of observation. In the past year or so, we did have certain members of the public who came to meetings with some contentious issues, who felt it was quite unfair that in a meeting they were allowed 5 minutes to speak, but then officers or even councillors could make comments, but then they couldn't come back, and therefore they felt hard done by that there wasn't any discussion option in order to kind of air the grievance and discuss it through. However, so I don't know if that's something that one could consider in the future, but I know we don't want meetings to go on forever. But I'm reassured by the town clerks embracing the idea of having a citizens' assembly, which the council would host, and I hope that by that means people would be allowed to feel that they could have a discussion with councillors and maybe with officers in a kind of open discussion, so that grievances or even just ideas could be aired. And that, by that means, maybe members of the public might feel that they are more invested in the way that the council runs business. I don't know if people would kind of feel that's a good way forward. If it was, I would encourage the council to if we, after our first citizens' assembly, if we get to have one, we could kind of judge it and go forward with that and make it a part of our modus operandi, that we can encourage residents to discuss with us their issues, and it just doesn't only come through councillors as grievances or something like that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. In terms of the public participation point, the way the participation is set out in our policy for that. But as was explained to the residents when they asked about this at full council in the last municipal year, the way that meetings are conducted is set by statute and by these standing orders. And it's, in other words, we're not letting the to and fro between public and it is not supposed to happen, essentially. It's supposed to be done in the formal way that we do it here, which is public have an opportunity to speak for up to 4 minutes. We're more generous. The statute's 3 minutes, so we're actually quite nice to give an extra minute. 4 minutes, and then those matters are then responded to. It's not a debate, it's not an ongoing discussion, because our meetings are not formatted in that way. We have to follow statute where the agenda has to be set a certain number of days in advance, and as you know, circulated within those legal time limits. And we don't just sort of have a free-for-all in the meetings. We're not legally, we're not allowed to do that. So it's not about restricting public engagement, it's about following the law. At the same time, as you've recognised, there is council rules about seeing that the council is doing all it can to strengthen its engagement processes. Hence the community survey, including engagement with schools together with good input, and more than 600 people responding to that, and making sure that the resident and stakeholder input is being considered by council when they're setting their priorities. That's an example of our engagement. We've increased our use of social media, we've increasing the amount of news items we do on our website with regular updates to citizens. So more work is happening, and over time our engagement is being strengthened over time, and that commitment remains. I think there's also finally, as you've said, and again as we've been showing, as we'll show in the future, there's the formal meetings where decisions of council are taken, and that's done in a formal, structured, legal way. But that does not prevent other means of working in partnership with organisations or other means of engaging the community. Again, as we've recently done by hosting stakeholder workshops and priorities, to hear from those community groups what the priorities are. So that's outside of the formal setting where more of that informal discussion is possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? I think Councillor Bristow's hands up first.
Yeah, that was really refreshing to hear from the council meet, because I've also been approached by several people, not just from the council, but other things in my experience last year speaking from the public gallery on different issues, was that sometimes actually you needed to have a little bit of interaction towards the end of a debate to actually say, you know, there's a good idea here, or there's something which isn't satisfactory. Talking about, for example, the charging for fitness instructors and so on. And I'm just wondering whether, outside the realm of full council, if we move to some of the committees, for example, if there is scope for the chair to have a bit more discretion on certain issues, because things like the community engagement survey and some of the other stuff is great for kind of strategic things, but when you get specific issues that sometimes are really bubbling on the detail in the room, I just wonder if there's a way to make people not just feel heard, but able to contribute on specific points where it makes sense. So yeah, I'd welcome some ideas for that.
Thank you, Councillor Bristow. Again, I feel that's something that the Council is open to doing within the frameworks under which we have to operate. So again, we can't change the formal nature of our formal meetings because we're legislatively required to operate in that way. But again, another good example is we recently, again, work with a group of stakeholders to discuss the housing development climate policy of the council. So that is where we are drawing upon expertise within our community to help to strengthen the work of our council. So I think the willingness to do that is definitely there, while understanding that there are certain things we can't do because we're just not allowed to do.
Councillor Dubas.
I'd like to reiterate what Christine said, because I've had I've had exactly the same responses where people feel they don't have a voice and they can't contribute to the full council meeting. And if I've understood correctly, we're not allowed to change that format legally. So what I'm going to do, the stakeholder forums are not appropriate. There's got to be another way that we can facilitate residents' views.
I think with respect, we've just described a number of ways in which we're seeking to involve residents appropriately as a council, and we do all our best to encourage that public participation and engagement. At the same time, of course, councils may wish to think about other ways they wish the council to do that and bring those ideas forward. We'll be very open to that happening in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Eugene.
You guys know another subject. Dispensation. In my another life, I just think of dispensation, and I'm trying to clarify what's on page 117, page 21. I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to understand in what context, because again, I've been given different interpretations when dispensations can be used. For example, I've been told, if you're trying to set your precept, so councillors can use dispensation because all councillors have got conflict of interest, and take conflict of interest. But in my 12 years on different town councils, we've never used this dispensation before. So I'm just trying to clarify when do you mean dispensation and why haven't we used it before?
I think that's a great question. And I'm also delighted to hear that detailed investigation of our code of conduct. So thank you, Councillor Trinity. The reason why it hasn't happened before is simply, I don't think there's any particular reason for that outside of the fact that no councillor has ever felt the need to ask for a dispensation so far. That might be because of a lack of awareness of Section 13 of the Code of Conduct, so it's helpful for highlighting that now, so in the future councils can have that in their mind. But as it says in the policy, a dispensation is basically to enable a councillor with an interest to participate in the debate or process around the matter in which they have an interest. And then Section E confirms how they request that, and then Section G does its best to explain how it may be possible to grant a dispensation. In other words, it's basically, as it says in Section G3, it's otherwise appropriate to grant dispensation. In other words, the standing order seeks to make clear that at times you can't have a dispensation, to say that on other times it can. Because essentially, I think the position of the council would be that the dispensation request cannot be unreasonably refused. So really this policy is an attempt to explain how that may or may not happen. The council is required to identify that they may have a reason to be able to participate in something under which they have an interest. If that's the case, they follow the process of Section 13, and then the council itself does its best to determine if a dispensation can be granted in mind of Section G of the proposal of the procedure. But as I said, I think it hasn't arisen. I think partly because as a town council, we don't generally experience a massive amount of interests within that. So much you might have more districts and counties that because of the nature of the business that we do. But also perhaps because again maybe councils aren't aware of this Section 13, so they need to look at it. And if there are further queries about it, please bring them forward. Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you. We are asked to adopt the standing orders policy document as presented with report 02/23. May I have a proposer? Councillor Aurora, and a seconder, Councillor Laws, and then all in favour. Thank you. Right, agenda item number 18 is exclusion of press